This podcast is sponsored by Active Skin Repair, a skin health company helping people heal with natural, non-toxic, medical-grade ingredients.
We are in the thick of summer right now, and you know what that means for me? I am spending every possible minute I can on the weekend paddleboarding. I absolutely love it. But last weekend was a doozy. I had an accident where I ran into some rocks on the side of the river. Thank God nothing was broken, but I did get pretty scraped up, which is not good when you're on a river for a few hours with nowhere else to go. Cuts like that can get hella infected really quickly. But luckily, it wasn't a problem for me because I was carrying my active skin repair in my first aid bag. I was able to spray my cuts up and finish our river run without any pain or worry over whether or not my cuts were getting infected. Not only that, but active skin repair can be used to treat sunburns and rashes and other types of skin damage, which makes it the perfect thing for me to take on these weekend water trips.
Active Skin Repair utilizes a molecule called hypochlorous acid. When applied to the skin, the molecule works by mimicking the natural immune response to cleanse, soothe irritation, reduce inflammation, and support healing.
I love them. They have sprays and hydrogel options, and it comes in regular active skin repair spray, kids and baby formulas, hydrating serums, and hydro sprays too. I love having the light mist spray when I'm out on the water because it dries quickly. But when I'm at home, we use the hydrogel because it's great to have on hand in the car. It works like an ointment. It's perfect. And of course, I love that all of the products are natural and non-toxic.
So visit www.activeskinrepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and to get 20% off your order. Use code NOGUILT. That's activeskinrepair.com, and to get 20% off your order, use code NOGUILT.
Being curious, setting boundaries, they all kind of come back to realizing that hurt people hurt others a lot.
Yes,
I mean, that
they
is a
do.
thing. That is a thing. People tend to lash out when they're hurt or they're upset.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you? We have a friend today who is hanging out for the podcast recording.
Maxie. Hi, Maxie.
Hi, everybody.
We stream these podcast episodes on Instagram every day. Either it's around noon or noon 30 Pacific time. So if you ever want to see the video, go on over to the Instagram, noon 30. That's why I like to call it. It's noon 30 because it's different than midnight 30. It's noon 30.
I've never heard anybody say midnight 30, though. Is that a thing?
No, I made it up.
Oh, okay.
It should be a thing. It should be a thing. I'm going to start a trend. Everyone's going to now call it noon 30 or midnight 30. It's how it goes. And today we are talking about how mean people suck.
People do suck.
A segue.
They do. Mean people suck.
And it's hard as an adult when you're dealing with a mean person. And it's also hard when you're trying to advise your kids when they're dealing with mean people at school and people who say horrible things and all this stuff. So we are giving you tips this episode on how to deal with it without losing your cool. And now let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
So mean people, Bree. I have dealt with my fair share of mean people, and the hardest mean people to deal with are the ones who are nice to your face and say stuff behind your back.
Ugh.
I feel that's really, it's mean girl-esque. I feel that's really how women tend to operate. Less of the confrontational aggressive and more of the relational and saying stuff behind your back to get at you. I remember when I was a teacher, I was called the upstairs boss behind my back. And it was started by one person in particular. And I never confronted this person, but I knew it was her because one of my teammates basically ratted her out and told me that they were saying stuff behind my back, just making fun of me, making fun of like how I wanted to like lead things and take charge and calling me upstairs boss. And that sucks when you deal with that as an individual.
Especially when someone's doing it just to be mean. Like, they're not
Just to be mean.
yeah, and I mean, like, everybody and we all know that, like, a lot of people have their covert reasons for doing things, like, maybe they're insecure, maybe they're jealous of you, whatever it is, but when it comes down to it, they're just being mean. They're just being a
They're
jerk.
just being mean. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, I hear that and I'm like, I know it comes from a place of insecurity. I
Mhm,
know
yeah.
it does. And like,
Doesn't make it hurt less, though.
no, but
Sorry.
nowadays I don't blame myself. I don't think it's something wrong with me. I'm like, okay, they're insecure, but I don't have to deal with this anymore. I mean, one situation that happened years ago was with an old friend that like was trying to reach out and make things better, and then I heard she was also telling stuff to her kids behind my back about me.
And you're like,
And
"That's
I was
two-faced."
like, and that's done, and we're done, and I am not going to meet with you in person, and I will be civil with you, and no, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to set those boundaries with people because, yes, it could come from a place of insecurity on their side,
Mhm.
but you also don't have to put up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you don't have to. And the thing is that like you said, like it's no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, you're going to have to deal with mean people. They exist in
Mhm.
the world. It is a piece of like human nature and we're going like our goal behind this episode is to like share what we've been through dealing with this, what we did and what our best advice can be for dealing with this because some people just are not pleasant people to be around.
No, and it's nothing to do with you. It's like one of my favorite things I say to myself is I'm like, if they were a happy person, they wouldn't be doing these things because happy people don't do that. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't.
Yeah. 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 No, I'm trying to think, like, I had so my mean people that still stick out in my head, I had somebody well, I was so, like, we've talked about this before, like, I was bullied when I was younger, and, I mean, I think most of us could say we probably were, especially if you grew up in the
Me too.
'80s and '90s,
Yep.
right? Like, it was
Mhm.
not a huge thing. Not a huge thing, I take that back, like, it was a huge thing, here I am, 45, and I'm still remembering it, so clearly it had some impact on me, right?
Oh, it's still so visceral for me. I want to like call out their first and last name on air right now, which I will not. I will not do. But like that's the emotional effect it has.
Right, right, so,
You
like,
never forget.
I had tons of people saying whatever crap to me growing up. The biggest one I remember, and I'll say this just, like, for high school, there is this girl that, like, never liked me, and when you go to school in Kansas City, I don't know if it was the same for you, but, like, you end up with the same people, like, right? From, like,
Hmm.
kindergarten on. So, this person was, like, the bane of my existence from probably, like, 1st grade on, all the way through high school. She was a cheerleader, so she was hung out with, like, my best friends all the time,
Oh.
and she would say mean things to me in front of my face, like, uh, she just, like, would say, like, mean things. "Oh, you smell. Oh, you're ugly. Oh, whatever." Like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Oh.
was that fantastic. And then she would do the thing where since she was a cheerleader with my best friends, she would trash talk me at cheerleading practice. And my friends would have to be like, "Hey, can you stop?" Like, that's not really nice. Like, they wanted to like her, but at the same time, she was so mean to me for no reason. Like, they'd be like, "Well, why don't you like her?" She's like, "I don't know. She's just annoying." And
Hmm.
yeah, like
You get the annoying thing.
to this day, still drove me nuts, made me feel insecure, made me feel awful. And now I know as I'm older, and this person has reached out to me on like Facebook and Instagram, and we are Facebook and Instagram friends. I have since figured out that she just didn't like me because I couldn't be knocked down a peg. Like,
Really?
yeah, like I still kept doing things. I still kept being loud, kept being a little bit oddball because that was just me and most people liked me for it. And I think it
Hmm.
drove her nuts. I really do. Like the more I've gotten to like see her as an adult, I'm like girls got some serious insecurities going on.
Yeah, it's usually the insecurities that totally like get everybody. It's funny because now, like, I mean, I remember in middle school, I was so happy, like, after like a PE class that like I finally found friends in middle school. I was a seventh grader. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm at a new school and I have friends. And then something happened. And I'm going to tell you what that is right after this. I am a water connoisseur and I cannot handle it when it doesn't taste good.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I will like toss out water that I'm like, no, that's not good.
And that is why we feel like you guys have got to check out AquaTrue. AquaTrue purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process. And their countertop purifiers, they work with no installation or plumbing. I mean, that makes it work for even me. It removes 15 times more contaminants than your ordinary water pitcher filters and are specifically designed to combat chemicals in your water supply.
And they have water purifiers to fit every type of home, from installation-free countertop purifiers to higher capacity under the sink options. They even have a Wi-Fi connected purifier and mineral boost options. Yeah, it's really cool. So AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, our listeners, you receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to AquaTrue, that's AQUATRU.com and enter code NGM at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use promo code NGM.
Today's podcast is sponsored by MIDI Health. I have to tell you guys, if you are a woman over 40 like I am, and you have started dealing with some crazy stuff like hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, vaginal dryness, weight gain, all of these things that you just are like, what the heck is happening to my body? I'm here to tell you, you don't have to accept it as another part of aging. All of these symptoms can actually be related to perimenopause and menopause. And yes, it can start in your 40s, but I have found a solution. MIDI Health. Seriously, this place is amazing. You can have virtual visits. Their clinicians are experts in menopause. They understand the frustrations and they also have full range of care options for you. Schedule a virtual visit and you'll come out of the experience feeling heard and with a plan that will work for you. Book your appointment with MIDI Health today. Visit joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
It's no secret that weight loss drugs and GLP-1s are all anyone is talking about right now. I mean, I've had friends on them. I'm sure that you have heard about them as well. And I wanted to let you know that you don't need to be rich and famous in order to get access to these medications. Through hers, you can get access to a budget-friendly weight loss program personalized just for you. Now, hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to GLP-1 weekly injections with the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy, as well as oral medication kits. So start your free online visit today at forhers.com/NGM. That's forhers.com/NGM for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/NGM.
Not available everywhere. Hers weight loss includes compound products which are not approved nor verified for safety or effectiveness by FDA. Prescription products require provider consultation. Restrictions apply. Actual price to customer will depend on product and subscription plan purchase.
So in seventh grade, I was in PE, seventh period PE. We had 8 periods in the school day. And I remember the time one girl turned like every person in my class against me. Like she worked very systematically to turn almost everybody. I admittedly didn't wear deodorant. Okay. I put that right out there. I didn't think I needed to wear deodorant. I wasn't schooled on it. I wasn't told by any adult that I needed to wear deodorant. Now, oh my gosh, I tell all my kids all the time, hey, you might want to put some deodorant on. Like, because I want to be the one to tell them. I don't want to be called out by their peers for that. And I do it very kindly. And I'm teaching them like, hey, we just need to
be self-aware. Yeah. Be self-aware.
So this girl took my new friend aside And she's like, hey, come here. And my friend who was walking next to me back to the locker room went back to them, and they were whispering to each other and they were looking at me. And I heard, oh, don't be her friend because she
Oh,
smells. Yeah.
that's
And that was the
awful.
last my new friend talked to me at all. I spent most of 7th and 8th grade with 2 friends who I loved dearly.
Uh-huh.
They balloons. Thank you so much for that, Apple. That was not a balloon moment.
You're like 2 friends, and they're like, "Oh, it must be a
balloons.
celebration. It must be a
He's
celebration."
fine. Oh gosh. But yeah, 2 friends. And then 8th grade got a little bit better. I got my confidence up a little bit there. I joined student government, which really helped. And I wore deodorant all the time. Like after that one moment, and like that time too. And I actually found out I smelled because 2 boys like leaned their chairs back and they're like, hey, does Joanne smell? And that's when I smelled. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I had deodorant in my backpack, and I went and I put it on right there, and I never didn't have a problem after that. I'm pretty sure, because I checked religiously if I smelled. And
I
I
was
still
gonna say,
do.
how did that conversation go with your parents when you're like, "Hey, I think I could like use some deodorant," like, and they're like,
They gave
"Oh,
me deodorant. I just didn't use it.
oh," they like
I
it's
didn't
it's
know
like,
the
yeah, they didn't give you the coaching that you kind of needed to go along with that.
yeah, like this is
Yeah,
important. You need to do this. But I mean, how would they know? It
yeah.
was probably a common sense thing. Like we do common sense as parents. Like how would they know? They probably wouldn't.
Well, I know, but
But
that's why we're here
yeah.
letting you guys know. Kids sometimes don't know the simplest things. We think that they figure it out, but a lot of times it's worth asking that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to my 5th graders, when I was a teacher, I would always tell them that story and how important it was to wear deodorant. None of my students had that problem. We did not have a stinking classroom ever.
That is
Because
fantastic. And a lot of
because I
people
told them
can
that.
thank you for that.
Yes. But uh, I I see now how middle school was so hard that you had to pick someone else for everybody to make fun of so they wouldn't make fun of you.
Yeah.
This
Oh
girl who
God.
did it,
Yeah.
her, like looking back, her face was covered with acne. I am sure she was insecure. I'm sure she was, and she was just trying to take the attention off of her. Honestly, like subconsciously, but that's
Yeah.
what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
It is so hard. And usually when I'm dealing with somebody, that's the first thing I go to. I'm like, we have some insecurity going on in this situation. So we have some tips we want to run through with you when you are encountered with a mean person.
Yes.
So that first tip, Brie.
The first tip, this one, it's a little bit of a Ted Lasso inspiration. It's great advice, but every time I say this statement, I can't stop thinking about Ted Lasso playing darts in the bar.
Mhm.
Or the first tip is be curious. So, like, when someone's being mean, asking them, okay, why do you feel that way? Or why do you feel like, you need to say that? But be honestly curious. You can't just be like asking them why and not listening at all,
Mhm.
or having your whole mind in your mind while you're asking the question going because they're a jerk, because they're a butt face. Like no, like no, you need to honestly be curious. And sometimes I have seen that work where that immediately right there, someone asking them the question made them like go back and be like, "Oh crap. I just got called out on that. I didn't mean to get called out on it."
Yeah.
A lot of times I've seen an immediate apology come by, like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way." When darn well they may have meant it that way, but getting
They may have meant it
called
that
on
way,
it,
but
yeah, but being called on it is enough to stop them right there in their tracks.
yeah, that be curious really falls in line with you need more information. Like
Mhm.
just like we tell you with kids. Like usually in all circumstances you need more information and you need it directly from that person.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a situation in a recent conference that I attended where somebody came up and was like, "Hey, they're saying some things about your presentation." And I'm like, "Oh,
No.
really? Really?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you for telling me that." And I went directly to that person and talked to her outside in the hallway, and I'm like, hey, I noticed that like you were chatting during that presentation, and I just wanted to see if I could help you in any way, make anything make sense for you, anything." Immediately you could see the reaction and the cover up almost
The
in
wheels
that person's
spinning
eyes.
in their
The
head of what
wheels
am I
made me
gonna
like,
say?
oh no, it was all great, it was great. I'm like, but I don't know what happened. I can never say for sure what happened. In my mind, I think that yes, things were said and there was some backpedaling going on, but I chose to go forward with being like, hey, if you need anything at all, please come to me directly and please ask me the question. I am totally open up to any criticism or advice that you have.
Yeah.
I want to get better. Please let me know.
Yeah.
And that being curious helps a lot because also like people have issues and they have no idea how to address them.
Yeah.
They don't. Like they've never been taught good communication skills. Like we're really not taught those things.
Right?
So if you don't tell them that you're open, it's going to go on behind your back, especially if you're a leader.
Yes, 100%. And tip number 2 is stay calm and listen quietly. Like it's again, Bree's brain is so visual. Now I'm going back to like the what was the one from like World War II? Stay calm and carry on. Like stay calm
Yeah.
and listen, but listen quietly. Sometimes we talk about this a lot, and I think about you a lot. Like when I'm trying to do this, just don't fill the silence. Just ask the question, or once they said something really mean, sometimes just like stand there, stare at them quietly.
Yeah, you're like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it can.
That's an interesting thing to say.
Yeah, sometimes
what's going on there?
the lack of a response of just somebody like standing there and staring at somebody can make them be like, "Oh snap!" That
The quiet people reveal a lot about themselves too. If you're quiet, like you will get talkers where you find out a lot of information just by staying silent. I mean, we all know somebody who could keep talking and talking at you, kind of like Ken in the Barbie movie playing guitar at you. It's like there are those people who talk at you and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you find out everything, every possible thing. And they usually can talk themselves out of ideas and things as well. So it's really interesting strategy. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to be like the trickiest or the slyest or the cleverest and try to make up a point to say how wrong they are.
Yep.
I would say like 8 to 9 times out of 10, people will prove themselves wrong if you just let them talk.
Yes. Yes. So those first 2 tips are really big ones. I mean, big chunks that will help you a lot with dealing with somebody who is mean or saying mean things. And we have 3 more tips for you right after this.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more, all at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Stop wasting money on subscriptions you don't use with Experian. You sign up for a free trial or a streaming service for just one show, and the charges keep rolling in. Experian could find and cancel over 200 unwanted subscriptions, saving you an average of $270 per year. Tap the banner to save with Experian. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Okay, so we've given you 2 tips already for how to deal with mean people. And I want to put like a little almost disclaimer in these tips. These are only tips for dealing with mean people who you still want to have a relationship with.
Yes,
or you're
very
still
important.
working with.
Very important.
Because you don't have to deal with mean people if they mean nothing to you. If it's like some rando who like you're never going to see again, like just turn your head and walk away. Like it's comments on the internet, block commenter, delete, go your own way. Like, you do not need to listen to everybody. So
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there.
I think that's a good one. Well,
Yes.
actually, that's a good one. And that leads you right into tip number 3.
Set the boundaries.
Yeah.
Set the boundaries of the conversation. Like, before, how we said to stay quiet, there are sometimes like what they say will strike such an open nerve with you where you cannot stay quiet. And that's when you could set a boundary about when you're going to talk about this. Even saying like, hey, what you said right there made me really upset. I need to cool down and I will not talk about this right now.
Yeah.
And then leave it at that. Adults, this works well with. They might follow you out of the room, close the door in their face. They're the crazy one, not you.
I've had a couple of people in my life that consistently I have to say to them, I will be happy to talk to you about this later when we can have this conversation in a respectful tone.
Mhm.
Or I'm happy to have this conversation later when we can talk without using names.
Mhm.
Like, and I think that one is like a really good one that can be used for kids too. When you're really scared, someone's calling you a doo-doo head, whatever it is, right? Like, and you can be
Mhm.
like, I think for kids, it's really, it helps a lot. But again, like I said, like I just used that statement a week ago via text. Like, I will have this conversation when you are in a better place and you can speak respectfully.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
just done.
I mean, and it's done. And with text, it's like you just stop responding.
Yeah.
And they can light your text up as much as possible.
Yeah.
They're the crazy ones,
Like,
not you.
But you're setting what is actually like a very reasonable and healthy boundary. So like one,
Mhm.
you're calling them on their crap. So if they were to sit there and be like, well, I wasn't trying to call names. I was being respectful. And then like if you have the ability to continue on that conversation, because I understand sometimes some mean people are scary.
Mhm.
Depending upon where they're at in life, they might be scary to you. So then you can be like, no, you were not being respectful because you said I was having a temper tantrum. No,
Yeah.
you're not being respectful because you called me a name that was unnecessary. So no, you weren't.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Very
hard
black
to
and
do
white.
it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. And it's also hard. I feel like boundaries, like it's easy to think of a boundary you want to set. It's
Mhm.
harder to enforce it. And I think the main thing that makes it so
Yes.
hard to enforce is that you don't think you're worthy of the boundary.
Or
You
you're
think
scared of
being
what's
a
going to
mean
happen.
person. Yeah, you're scared of
Right.
what's going to happen.
What are
You're
they gonna
scared of
say?
losing the relationship. You think that setting a boundary is going to make you lose a relationship.
Yep.
A lot of these can be tied into also a concept I learned recently called emotional fusion, where
Yes.
your emotions are so tied up in somebody else's emotions that you think
Yep.
that their emotions are caused by you
Yeah.
or that relate to you, or that if they're happy, you're happy. If they're mad, you're mad. Like, that's not healthy.
No.
That's a form of codependence.
Yep.
And once you realize that, you can start trying to like take yourself out of it, or at least like getting help to get out of that. Because what we look for is interdependence in relationships. It's basically, I'm okay, you're okay, we're both good.
Yep.
We're both good. Your
Yep.
emotions don't dictate my emotions whatsoever.
Right.
So boundaries, going back to boundaries, we had a situation in our balance group about family boundaries.
Oh,
About
yes.
a dad, an older dad who disrespected his daughter's home when he came into it. And she is so afraid of setting a boundary because she doesn't want to lose her dad or the relationship with her dad.
And
there's
it's your
so-
dad. It's a little
It's your dad.
scary.
It's
Yeah.
really scary. It is really, really scary. And I had a situation like this come up in my family where I had to have a conversation about a boundary I had to set. And you know what? That family member did not take it well at all.
Mhm.
It was us crying and a hang up on me. We didn't talk for a week. Emotions had to cool down. And when emotions cool down, what I found out is that I set that boundary, that family member heard something completely different than what I actually said. They heard that they were a bad person.
Oh.
And all of the shame came out. everything. And that's typically what's happening when you set a boundary and they have an intense reaction. They are taking it in, they have that emotional fusion going on, thinking that they are the cause and the root of other people's unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, huge emotional explosion, of course, when you
Yeah.
think that way.
Yeah.
And there's no preventing it. You just have to let the emotions die down before you actually can find out the real reason behind it.
Yeah.
You can't predict the future at all.
Yep. So, all right, this next tip. So, like, just to be clear, when I was doing this, like, some of these were tips that, like, we already know that we've gotten from, like, books we've read about communication and whatnot. This was one that kind of came from the internet, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw this one in because I think for the less serious mean people, this one works well. So this is a good one to have in the back pocket. This, and we've all heard it, like my Nana told me this one. Kill them with kindness. All right. Trying to use humor to diffuse the situation or offering them compassion. Like,
Yeah.
one thing I've done when, like, family members that I feel pretty confident in my relationship with. So, like, let's say like my kids or something, if they're being like really rude or mean or something, I would be like, sounds like someone needs a hug.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it to make them laugh at me.
Yeah.
And then I like run over at them like with like trying to hug them. And then they're like, oh, stop it, you're a dork. And then like they're normally in a better mood. And I can tell you, like, yesterday, I was so cranky mean. I was a cranky mean person yesterday. I was just having my crabby pants on. And I was being snippy and mean, even to my daughter. She was like, Mom, you're not being very nice right now. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I actually kind of turned it around to that. I was like, I need a hug. I need a hug.
It's funny the
And I
kill them
got a
with
hug.
kindness thing because I'm always reminded of the phrase "bless your heart." When you hear "bless your
Yes.
heart" from the Southern person or
Bless
from
your
anybody,
heart.
you know you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Like, they are pissed off at you when you hear "bless your heart." You're like, oh, what did I do to upset you?
There is those rare occasions where you get a bless your heart because you did do something so sweet. Oh, bless your heart. That's
Oh,
so
okay,
sweet.
that's the tone.
But it's the tone.
Yeah,
it's the tone. As opposed to the bless your heart.
Oh,
Like,
bless your
you.
heart.
That was something my Nana would do as well. She was a Southerner, and that's what we would get.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. And you're like, oh shit. What did
What do we do? What do we do?
What did I say? So yeah, so like sometimes disarming somebody with some humor or kindness is really helpful.
But the
again,
last
depending
part,
upon the situation.
the last tip
the last
is
one
really,
is the big one.
it's the one we all have trouble with. That don't take it personally. It's real hard. It's real hard. And I've gotten better at this over the years because once you have in your mind that people are mean from like the point of insecurity, you're like, oh, that person has some issues and some troubles going on there.
Right.
There's a lot of mean stuff said by public figures, in particular, one in particular. And a lot of it is like, okay, I know where this is coming from. People aren't just mean, probably had a horrible childhood, probably criticized their entire life. All of these things probably shouldn't be in public.
I like that. Probably shouldn't be holding public office.
Probably shouldn't have a leadership role until they could get like some things taken care of, maybe some really heavy therapy to figure out what the issues are, but also can have compassion for that person too, you know?
Yes. Because again, like we talked about earlier, being curious, setting boundaries, like they all kind of come back to realizing that hurt people hurt others.
Yes, they do.
I mean, that is a thing. That is a thing. Proven, like, people tend to lash out when they're hurt or they're upset. So a lot of times when they're being mean, and this is an important thing I think that our kids have to hear, because I think as adults, we've kind of figured that out. Either someone has point blank told us, or we've just kind of figured it out over time, right? But I think for kids, like, they don't know that. Like, letting them know that, like, if someone's being really mean, I just want you to know that chances are there's something else going on.
Yep. Always.
Like, Yeah, I think only a psychopath would be mean to be mean. I've never run into somebody
And
where they were being mean just to be mean.
even then, guess what? They're a psychopath. That's what's going on. That's what's going on.
You're like, Bree, you kind of glazed over that one. There's a serious mental illness happening in that scenario.
brain structures going on that,
Yeah.
like, yeah. I heard that was the difference
Yeah.
actually between a psychopath and a sociopath. The psychopath, like, could actually be proven biologically that there's something different about their brains, and the sociopath
Interesting.
is like almost a learned behavioral thing. Or, yeah, that was from an
I
armchair.
think I remember that. Was
episode.
that on an armchair? Yeah,
Mhm.
that was an armchair expert episode. I think I remember that one.
Shout
I
out
think
to
I do.
armchair expert. We love you.
Yes. 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 So just remember that sometimes just trying not to let it define you. Like, again, like, obviously you and I shared stories of where we had mean people in our lives that it really latched on to us heavily.
Yeah.
And here we are many, many years later, still hurt about the conversations that were had. And it's a heavy load.
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants to carry that around. So, like, the sooner you can learn that it isn't about you and that it's about something else, and you can let that load off, it's so much better for you.
And I want to add a little bonus tip for parents.
Yes.
For how to really help your kids through this as well. And when you're dealing with mean people, it is hard. But one thing that parents could do is they can accept accountability for their own actions when they were mean themselves. Because I think that's like not the closure that we get when we deal with those mean situations. Like me in middle school, like, that person never accepted accountability. They never told me that, hey, I'm so sorry for you for doing that to you.
Yeah.
If I had that closure, it probably wouldn't hurt as much. I probably wouldn't, like, if I saw her in public, want to be like, you did this to me in middle school. Like, that's kind of what I want to do still.
You suck.
That's what I want to do. And
right.
Like, just accepting accountability for your own actions, I think, shows kids that they're deserving of that. They are not at blame for everything that happens. And when we make mistakes as parents and going back and being like, you know what, I really want to apologize for that. I had not eaten yet, and I did not need to say that. And I am so sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That alone takes so much of the pressure off and shows kids that that is what they're deserving of in a healthy relationship. People who take accountability.
Not only deserving of accountability, but that they don't have to be perfect to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, again, like, that's a big thing with a lot of these insecurities people have. They think that they have to be perfect and better than everybody else. So they have to knock other people down pegs so that they can be where they think they have to be so that they can be loved. And so I think that that's excellent. That's like number one, taking accountability, showing your kids that, teaching them that. That is a huge important thing.
Absolutely.
Right there. But I think we gave everybody the secret sauce, the recipe for dealing with those mean people.
All in all, mean people have their own problems going on. That's why they're mean.
I know, right?
That's why they're mean.
Yeah.
So don't let those mean people get you down. You're awesome.
I know.
You're amazing.
Yes.
Remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.